The incredible life story of the beloved daughter of the Prophet Muhammad Kulthum, a faithful woman who showed patience and strength even though she lost her mother and two sisters at a young age. She suffered under the strong boycott of the Mushrik people of Mecca, yet she stayed pure and strong. She married into the home of Abu Lahab and his wife Jamil, both cursed in the Quran, but she never gave in to their evil cruelty. The marriage ended because of their tricks, but she never left her faith, not even for a moment, and Allah gave her a big reward by letting her marry Uthman. The Khalifa of the Umayyads was the closest companion and helper of Fatima, the mother of all al-Bayth, had beauty beyond this world and a clean heart, but her real story was never told. Now the hidden life of Kulthum is here for you. Watching Religious Story TV. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and help us share this story around the world. More people need to hear it. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. When one of them is given the news of a baby girl, his face becomes dark with anger because of the bad news she thinks he received. Hides from his people. Should he keep her in shame or should he bury her in the ground? What a terrible decision they make. Surah An-Nahl 58-59. About 1,400 years ago, in the time of ignorance among the Arabs, baby girls were killed in two ways. One way was when a pregnant woman gave birth in the desert. If the baby was a girl, she would bury her in a hole she had dug. The other way was to let the girl live until she was around 6 years old. Then the father would bury her himself. When it was time to kill her, the father would tell his wife to dress the girl in clean and beautiful clothes. She would then take her to a hole he had already dug in the valley, saying they were going to visit relatives. Then he would quickly bury her. Some children were also killed by drowning in water, being thrown into a well or a cliff, or by being strangled. The beloved daughter of the Messenger of Allah was born at a time when ignorance and cruelty were very strong. She was born 6 years before prophethood, when the prophet was 34 years old. Her mother was Lady Khadijah, was the third of the prophet's daughters. Because she had a round and beautiful face, she was named Kulthum, which means the most beautiful among the beautifuler. Mother of a beautiful face, she grew up like twins with her older sister Ruqayya. When she was born, the prophet held her in his arms and did tanakbi, chewing a date and rubbing it on her mouth. After Lady Khadijah breastfed her for 7 days, she was given to Salma, the servant of the prophet's aunt Sophia, to be her wet nurse. Kulthum grew up playing with her older sister. She also became an older sister to Fatima, who was born 1 year after her. Kulthum was among the first Muslims. Together with her mother Lady Khadijah and her sisters, she gave her pledge of loyalty to the Messenger of Allah. She was raised perfectly in every way, growing up under the care of a father who carried the light of prophethood and a mother who was the most honorable woman in the world. When Lady Zainab married Abu Lahab and his wife, not wanting to miss the chance to take the prophet's other daughters, came to the house of the prophet to ask for Ruqayya and Kulthum for their sons. Both the prophet and Lady Khadijah believed that Abu Lahab and his wife Jamil were cold-hearted people. Even though they were close relatives, they did not want to give their daughters to them. However, neither Jamil nor Abu Lahab were people who gave up easily. They kept insisting until the daughters of the prophet were engaged to their sons Utbah and Utbah, knowing that saying no would not help the prophet, unwillingly accepted the engagements. Utbah to Ruqayya and Utbah to Kulthum. After the first revelation, Kamito, the Messenger of Allah, it stopped for 3 years. This time is known as the period of pause. During this time, the prophet suffered greatly. Lady Khadijah never left his side and supported him with all her heart. Kulthum witnessed this time and supported her parents much as she could, just like her sisters. When the prophet was ordered to call people to Islam, she became a Muslim immediately along with her sisters. First, the prophet invited his relatives, then the people of Mecca to Islam. The first person to oppose him in both invitations was Abu Lahab. He didn't just reject the message, he also tried to stop others from following the prophet. When the enemies of Islam saw that the prophet's message would destroy their systems of oppression, they didn't just try to block him, they quickly began to attack as well. The enemies of Islam tried every way to stop the message. One of these ways was to disturb the Messenger of Allah, to keep him busy with hardships. This tactic used by enemies of Islam in every era was also used by Abu Jahl. At that time he ordered his men saying keep Muhammad busy with his own problems. After Surah Al-Masad Tavs was revealed about Abu Lahab and his family because of their evil actions, their hatred reached the highest level. They made it there. Mishianto hurt the messenger of Allah, the idolaters saw every method as acceptable to harm him and used Abu Lahab's family for this purpose. Their first targets were the marriages of our mothers Kulthum R.A. and Ruqayya R.A., Abu Lahab and his wife Jamil along with Abu Jahl and his men pressured Utbah and Utbah to divorce their wives. After prophethood began in Surah Al-Masad was revealed, Abu Lahab said to his sons, if you don't divorce Muhammad's daughters, then I will never come near you again. Their mother Jamal also said divorced both of Muhammad's daughters. They are misguided just like their father Utbah and Utbah were no less hostile to Islam, did not hesitate for a second and divorced their wives immediately. But Utbah, fiancé of Kulthum R.A., did not stop there. He crossed all limits. When he divorced Kulthum R.A., he came to the Prophet, and said, reject your religion and I've divorced your daughter. Never come to me and I will never come to you again. Then he insulted the Prophet, and tore his shirt. At that time Uthman was preparing to go on a trade journey to the region of Sham, Syria. The Prophet looked at him and said, may Allah send one of his dogs upon Yoha. Was praying that something would punish Uthabalat or Uthaba. Set off with other Qurayshi traders and reached a place called Zarqa. When they arrived, a lion began to circle their camp. Uthaba cried out, by Allah, this lion will kill me because of Muhammad. Prayer against meth. Lion circled them a few times, then disappeared. Suthi had Utbah sleep in the middle of their group to protect him, but the lion came back, walked through them, went straight to Uthaband, crushed his head with its claws. Lady Zainab R.A. had married Abu al-As R.A. about 3 to 4 years before these events. After separating from Utbah, Lady Ruqayya R.A. soon married Uthman R.A. At that time only 2 daughters remained in the house of the Messenger of Allah, Kulthum R.A. and Fatima R.A. The call to Islam continued strongly, and each day the polytheists did something new to hurt the Messenger of Allah. Despite being young girls, the 2 sisters did their best to help their father and supported him against the polytheists. At every opportunity little Fatima R.A. took it upon herself to protect her father. She followed him, wherever he went and ran to help him. Whenever she saw he was in trouble, Lady Khadija R.A. spoke to the women of Mecca about Islam and invited them to guidance. The devoted daughter Kulthum R.A. helped around the house, making things easier for everyone. She made sure the household tasks didn't prevent her mother and sister from their duties. When the Messenger of Allah came home, she welcomed him in the best way, sometimes comforting him and sharing his sadness. After some time, Lady Ruqayya R.A. migrated to Abyssinia with her husband Uthman R.A., Kulthum R.A., and her sister Fatima R.A. stayed in Mecca with their father. When both older sisters had married, all the responsibilities fell on her shoulders. The oppression, embargoes, and attacks by the polytheists increased. Hunger and poverty became worse. The Muslims were practically imprisoned in the area of Abu Talib during the 3-year embargo. Kulthum R.A. tried to ease the burden and pain of her mother and father with her tiny heart. She comforted her mother by saying, "Don't be sad, dear mother." She believed that these hard days would end one day and that a new dawn would rise for the Muslims. She remained patient, trusting that Allah's help would come in the end, and that day finally arrived. Abu Talib announced that the embargo had ended and that the document hanging in the Kaaba had been torn apart. All the Muslims rejoiced at this news. The death of Kulthum's mother, Lady Khadija R.A. Despite all the suffering and hardship, the early Muslims never gave up their faith. Their struggles only made their faith stronger and sharpened their determination. During the embargo, Lady Khadija R.A. became very sick and weak. In the month of Ramadan, the 10th year of prophethood, her illness became worse. In the 10th day of Ramadan, Lady Khadija R.A. returned her soul to her Lord. The Messenger of Allah buried his beloved wife with his own hands. She was the first woman to accept Islam, and there was no better wife than her. After the death of Lady Khadija R.A., Kulthum R.A. responsibilities at home increased. She was now in charge of all the housework and care. She personally witnessed how hard her father worked for the message of Islam and how tired he became when Mecca became like a prison for Muslims and migration was allowed. The companions migrated to Medina first. Later the Messenger of Allah also migrated, and his family was brought afterward. When the Prophet went to Taif, two sisters waited for days in fear. When he returned covered in wounds and bruises, they were heartbroken. Until the migration to Medina they continued living with constant worry. It deeply upset them that the polytheists were searching everywhere to kill their father during his migration. Until they heard that the Prophet had safely arrived in Medina, they could not sleep peacefully. Their faces never smiled even once during that time. After the Prophet reached Medina, Kulthum and Fatima were still in Mecca because they were under the protection of the Banu Hashim. They were considered safe, but the actions of the polytheists were unpredictable. Anything could happen at any moment. They spent months surrounded by idolaters, living with fear. Still they worried more about their father than about themselves. It was the first time they had been away from their father for so long. Time passed slowly with longing and anxiety. Sometimes they couldn't sleep, lost their appetite, and felt some relief only when they heard good news. We can understand that Allah protected them from harm and allowed them to return safely to their beloved father. When Kulthum migrated to Medina, her dear sister Ruqayya was already very sick. As both a sister and a daughter, she cared for both her father and her sister until Ruqayya passed away. At that time news came that the polytheists were preparing to attack Medina. The Messenger of Allah gathered the Muslims to face the Quraysh army at Badras. Lady Ruqayya's condition worsened. Uthman stayed in Medina to care for her. When the good news of victory at Badr reached Medina, Lady Ruqayya had already passed away and returned to her Lord the Most Merciful. Although Uthman was not physically present at the Battle of Badr, the Messenger of Allah counted him among those who joined the battle and gave him a share of the war gains. The Prophet came to his daughter's grave, prayed for her, and she was buried in the cemetery off Janatul Baqi. Except for Badr, Uthman took part in all the battles against the polytheists and enemies of Islam. His marriage with Ruqayya was full of both hardship and happiness. Now he had lost his beloved partner, who stood by him in those difficult days, also his family tie with the Messenger of Allah. Answer from either of them. The Prophet comforted him and said, Hafsa will marry someone better than Uthman, and Uthman will marry someone better than Hafsa. With this glad news Umar was comforted. Then came the blessed news of Uthman's marriage with Kulthum the daughter of the Prophet and the sister of Ruqayya. One day Uthman came to the Prophet in tears and deep sorrow. The Prophet ﷺ, seeing his sadness, asked him gently, O Uthman, why are you so upset? Uthman replied, O Messenger of Allah, who should be sad if not after your daughter's death? I am left alone, but more than that, I have lost my family connection with you. Then the Prophet sighed, O Uthman, Jibril has come to me and informed me that Allah has commanded me to marry Kulthum to you. This news filled Uthman with great joy. Without their mother, all the Muslim women helped and supported the Prophet's beloved daughter Kulthum and the preparations were completed quickly. In the third year after the Hijrah, marriage of Uthman and Kulthum took place. Uthman was now honored to Beta, son-in-law of the Prophet for the second time. From then one was known as Zun Nurinth, possessor of two lights. First he had married Ruqayya and after her passing married Kulthum. Kulthum lived a peaceful and happy life with Uthman for 6 years. She took part in the Bay'ar Ridwan at Hudaybiyah, joined the Umrah of Reconciliation, and was present at the conquest of Mecca. The death of Kulthum the gentle third daughter of our beloved Prophet Kulthum became ill in the 9th year after the Hijrah. At that time both her father and her husband were away in the expedition to Tabuk. Her illness worsened day by day. Her sister Fatima radiallahu anha, all the women companions were deeply saddened because neither her father nor her husband was by her side. She had just turned 27. She had no children. The precious daughter of the Prophet was now preparing to leave this world. While Kulthum was taking her last breaths, news came that the Muslim army had returned to Medina. When she heard that her father and husband had come back safely, She seemed to feel slightly better, but soon after she passed away and reunited with her mother Lady Khadija, R.A. In the eternal home she died in the month of Shabanan, the 9th year after Hijra. When the Prophet entered her room, her body was still warm, took the hand of his beloved son. The Prophet personally led the prayer after she was buried, sat by her grave. For a while it was seen that tears flowed from his blessed eyes. During the burial he said whoever was with his wife last night should not go down into the grave. So his daughter was lowered into the grave by Ali, R.A., Fadl ibn Abbas, R.A., and Usama ibn Zayd, R.A. When Abu Talha al-Ansari, R.A., said that the met the condition as well, the Prophet allowed him to enter the grave too after she was buried in Jannat al-Baqi. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded the people that humans are created from the earth, returned to it, and will be raised from it. Agoinus the grave was being closed, asked for the brickstone be placed neatly, saying that while it would not benefit the deceased, it would be more respectful for the living, just like he was saddened at the death of Ruqayya. Uthman, R.A., was again heartbroken at the death of Kulthum. Wraith Messenger of Allah consoled him, saying family ties are cut by divorce, not by death. Uthman, R.A., had no children from Kulthum, R.A., and her death deeply saddened him. The Prophet comforted him by saying, if I had 40 daughters I would marry them to you one by one until none were left. Gave him loving words of comfort. May Allah grant us the same respect, love, and devotion they had, and allow us to receive their intercession. If you feel alone, even when all the stars are aligned, this channel is for you. Before this video gets lost in the endless